Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I appreciate all the new subscribers, people who are viewing them and learning from my videos, and I appreciate that. You know, I am a homeowner, so there's a lot of different things I do, so this channel isn't just going to be one specific thing like fixing lawnmowers or snow blowers. We're going to get into electronics here, we're going to get into appliances, and today we have this Whirlpool Cabrio. And this is a model WTW5550X, and it's actually a good machine. I believe it's from 2009. I've had it for a while. You can see I've kept pretty good shape of it. You know, I have another washing machine. I like to keep like backup machines just in case. But this machine I had set aside for a couple years, and I went to use it. And basically when you start it, all it does is just hum, and you can smell a burning smell coming from it. So it's all it basically does is during the auto sensing, which would be one of the first stages it's going to do, it would just hum. So I figured maybe it would be the motor underneath. If you tip this forward and lay it on the ground, you can get underneath there and you can see the belt and the motor. So I checked the belt out. The pulleys are tight. You know, sometimes they come loose, and all you got to do is tighten it up and it'll fix your problem. But in this case, it's a little more serious. I didn't want to go through and demonstrate what it's actually doing because of the burning smell. But I suspect it probably has something to do with the control board, which is a pretty expensive part. But we're going to see today if we can't fix this machine for $1 or $2. So first we have to remove the control board. So I'm going to start to show you how to do that, and then we'll go on from there. Alright guys, so in order to get to this control board, we're going to have to remove what I call this header part here. And basically the control board in any machine is usually going to be located behind all of the controls, like the knobs, the buttons, etc. So even if you don't have this machine, I think you can learn from this video, because a lot of your problems are going to be control board problems. So if you're sure that mechanically everything's working, let me turn off this dehumidifier. If you're sure that everything mechanically has been working and you've looked at everything down below, the motor, you don't smell any burning down there, then most of the time your issue is going to be with the control board. So I have a 1/4 inch socket here, pretty simple, and I'm going to start to remove these screws all around this back here. And you do want to make sure it's unplugged. Definitely want to make sure it's unplugged first. So what this is going to do is remove this metal plate. And one other thing we have to do is, you'll notice there's a kind of a bracket here, and there's two nuts or bolts here. We're going to remove the top one here, because that's going to allow us to slide this top and actually tip the top backwards, so we can access and remove this top header, and then we'll take it up on a table and get a look at the control board. I'll show you how to remove the control board, and we'll go from there. So I removed that. Now in order for this to come off, you're going to see there's a plate here, and there's also a nut here, or a bolt here. And that removes that part. And now we're able to remove this. Alright guys, so since we have loosened everything up and removed the panel in the back, what you want to do to tip this top part to the back is pull it forward. And once you pull it forward out of these clips in the front, it'll then lift up. And and just be aware of the lid. And if you have something to, you can put behind this to keep it up, go ahead and do that. But it should stay there. There's a couple things we have to do. I'm going to try to bring the camera over here and show you specifically these clips that you have to remove to get this header part off to where the control board is. Alright guys, so this is the back side of that top panel, and the part where the control board is in. You can see these two plastic pieces here. It kind of slides in. You have these metal clips. There's one on this side, and then there's also a metal clip there. That's what holds that thing on. We have to remove that so we can get it on the table and take a look at the control board. So what you want to do is just kind of put a screwdriver in there. They can be a little tricky. There, we removed it. And basically you put one side in first there, and then you kind of apply some pressure to put it back in there. So that's one clip, and we're going to go ahead and do the other side, and I'll show you how to remove that header part, and we'll start disconnecting some wiring harnesses so we can get it up on the table and take a look at what's going on. Alright guys, so once I had slid it, you can see these squares here. Once I had slid it backwards, I was able to get this header part out. This is the control part of it. And you can see all these wires we have here. And I'm just going to go through and just carefully pry up on these. Now they're going to have tabs. You can see the few tabs here. Just take your time, press them down and remove them. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to try to get the camera up to where I can show me doing that, and we'll get this up there. And I'm eager to open this up and see if there's anything we can fix here. Use both hands, and there's a couple tabs here. Just watch where the tabs are, and I'm going to pull up. I'm going to pull up on these connections. I got one of them here. There's one over here. Okay, we have several connections here. We're going to disconnect. There's always a tab there, and don't worry because all these are unique. So you can't really mess up when you put it back. You can't really mess it up, because each one is a different size and it's unique. And I just want to get the last few wires off, and I'm not going to bore you, but I'm just going to get the next few wires off here, and then we'll take it up on the table, and we'll open up and take a look at the control board. Okay, so here we see the back side of it. Here's all the connections that we had disconnected, and inside of here is going to be the control board, and we're going to take a look at it and see if there's anything obvious going on there. All we have to do with this is there was one screw here, and then we're just going to, there's tabs here, we're going to click them up, open them up with a screwdriver, and get that board out and take a look at it. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a screwdriver, regular screwdriver, and try to get underneath these tabs here. There's one here on the right, one here on the left, in the front here there's one. Just kind of try to get a screwdriver in there without breaking anything. Being a little stubborn on this side. That might be enough for us to get the board out. So there we have the board. do see now, if you can see it there, there's a black round spot there. And we're going to get a closer look at this board and see if there's anything obvious. Alright, so we removed the board and we're just kind of going to take a look at it. When you remove the board, you want to look for anything obvious on here, anything burned up. You can smell around here and see if you smell anything burning, a burning smell. Electronics has a distinct smell to it, so if you smell anything, that's probably where your problem is. Other things are going to be obvious. Obviously you can't tell what's going on inside of each of these components without testing them all, and the average person isn't going to have the equipment to do that, and that's why they recommend we'll just replace the board. Well, there's a possibility here that we can get the machine running for maybe $1 or $2, or if you already have the parts. Now if you're like me, I save all kinds of parts in electronics for this reason. Now I'm looking at this board and I see an obvious issue here with one of the capacitors here. You can see how it's black and the top of it's bulged up, and then if I examine the cover that goes over it, you can see a black burn mark here, exactly where that capacitor is positioned. So it's my guess that something's going on with that capacitor, and I'm going to look through my parts. I save all kinds of parts from all kinds of boards that I find or machines, and they come in handy later. So I'm going to look in my supply and see if I have that capacitor. First I'm going to have to know what kind of capacitor that is. And if I look at the numbers on it, it looks like 1000 UF and it's 6.3 volts capacitor. See what I got here? I got some capacitors here, but they're a little bit bigger. There's a 4700 UF. You know, this is my small collection of parts. You have a large capacitor here, you know, some sensors for gas dryers or furnaces. This is a heat sensor here. Let's see what I got. I got 1000 UF, and that's funny, this is from a TV I had actually found in the trash, and I saved some of the parts, and it says 1000 UF, so I'm going to take a closer look at those, see if maybe that'll work for me. Alright, so I was kind of lucky. I actually have 2 of these, and these were removed from a Samsung TV that I had stripped down before. And if anyone's seen my previous video, I actually did a capacitor repair before on a Samsung TV that somebody threw away, that it wouldn't come on. And you can look through my videos and you'll see it listed in there. But it's the same procedure where I replaced the capacitor and it actually worked. So I'm hoping it's going to do the same thing in this case. It's not going to hurt anything, so I have to replace the board anyway. It's much more expensive. I think a board like this probably $180. We can do it even if I didn't have the part. I could order it. It's easy to order. It probably costs $1 or $2 for the capacitor. So here's the capacitor I have, 1000 UF, same as specs as this one in here. This voltage is 10 volt, and this one is lower. It's like 6.3, 6.2, but it's okay to have a higher voltage. It's not that much more higher actually. So what I'm going to do is desolder, remove this capacitor, and we'll replace it with one of these. Alright guys, so if you look at the back of the board from where that capacitor is, there's going to be 2 solder points I've marked with the Sharpie marker here. We got this one point here, and that one point next to it. So all we have to do is melt them down, and almost like extracting teeth, we're going to pull out that capacitor and clean up the holes there and insert the new one and solder it in. Those are very small amounts of solder, so it's a very easy job. So let's get on to it. Alright, so let's get started here. I got my soldering iron here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on the tip. It always helps if you have a little solder on the tip, just makes it easier. And I'm going to try to hold and pull on, kind of like a tooth, that capacitor as I'm melting these connections here. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. Now it might get too hot because you do feel the heat coming through. You might have to use a pair of needle nose pliers on the capacitor. And you just got to be patient with it, and you don't want to hold the soldering iron on this board too long, because think of these as highways. These are circuitry that goes everywhere. If you hold it on too long, there's traces in there. You'll end up melting that connection, and you're going to cause more damage than good, so not a good idea. So you just got to be patient with it. We basically got to break down that solder that's there already. Get it melting. That's why usually I put some solder on the tip. It does help. There we go. It's a little bit stubborn, but you can see there we got it out of there. So now the next thing we have to do is clean up those holes. That's why I have this solder wick. This is actually like a sponge. You know, it's copper braided wire, and it kind of acts like a sponge. If you apply the iron to it over these holes, it will actually soak up the solder and give us some clean holes so we can insert the new one into those holes. Alright, so I have my copper braid here, my solder wick, and I'm going to put it over these holes that I just removed the capacitor from. Try to clean them out, because I need those holes to put the new one in there. Alright, so it took a few minutes, but as you can see, you see the two holes there? You know, using that soldering braid and holding it on there, I was able to absorb the solder, and I got some nice clean holes there. So I'm going to put the new capacitor in there, and we're going to solder it in there and see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, I've put the new capacitor in, and that gray stripe is exactly where the other one was, pointing outward. That's important. And then underneath here, I've just stuck it through, and I just bent slightly the legs just so it holds in there, so it stays in there. It doesn't fall out. So now I'm going to put it in my vise there. If you don't have a vise, you don't need it, obviously. You can do it without it. I'm going to put it in that vise, and we're going to solder those connections. I'll put a little on the tip there, and I'm also going to feed it as I'm touching that connection onto the tip of the iron. So there's one connection. Just a little more on that one. I think that's good enough. So there you have the two connections there, and we'll remove the board from the vise. And if you could see there, the capacitor that we just put in there. So it looks good. It's a little bit taller than the other capacitor, but I think, like I said, just a small modification to that plastic housing there. I think it's going to be okay. And then we'll put it all back together and give it a try and see what happens. Alright, so I did notice while trying to snap this back in, as I suspected, that where that black spot is there, the capacitor that I'm putting in is like 3 volts more than the other one, and that, as a result of that, it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit taller, not by much, but enough to where this won't snap in. So what I'm going to do is just make a modification with the drill and just drill a hole there, which I think would be better. Would have the caps would have more air, keep them cooler. But either way, we have to make a modification to it. So we're going to do that now. See if we can't. It's probably good enough there. Actually turned out pretty nice. Just want to clean it up a little bit, and we'll see if it fits now. As you can see, I hope you can see that. You can see the cap there. So it's really a perfect hole there that I drilled, and it fits on just fine. Alright, so I just put these 2 screws on in the back. If you want to remove this top part, you don't have to take off the gold bolts, but only the silver ones on the top. So I just put that back in, and I put the one in here on the right side, left side. I'm going to leave that open for now, and that's just 1, 2. There's a couple of screws there that go around that, but as I said, I'm going to leave that open just so I can keep an eye on the status light here and just overall operation of it. And I think we're ready to go. Well, let's see what happens. Plugged it in, and let me remind you of what it was doing before. It was just humming, and it was this horrible burning smell, and it just did not start. I put the clothes in, the water didn't come on. It's starting to do something now. I hear it auto sensing, which is what it's supposed to do. And I'm just going to wait for, hopefully the water will come on and it'll start washing. So I haven't seen anything yet. I'm waiting for that water to start pumping in. I hear water. That's a good sign. So far so good, guys. Just want to let you know too that in the machine, you know, at first I checked the belt and the belt looked good. I cleaned the pulleys. You know, a lot of times one of the main pulley is loose and that'll cause problems. But up in the machine, taped up in the machine up towards the front or the left or the right side, there's a service manual which tells you how to do diagnostics in here. It's all the secrets of the machine. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but they bury it inside the machine there. So unless you take a panel off or tip the washing machine over so you can access the bottom and look up inside of it, you would never see this. There's a lot of handy information, schematics. It tells you how to, like I said, get into the diagnostic mode to display error codes for you. So I just thought I'd mention that for you as well. So guys, I hope this video helped you out, that you could save some money. You know, not everyone has $180, $200 to throw away. I have a dryer here that I'm going to be doing some work on soon. I'm going to do a video on that. It's a Frigidaire dryer, and all it does is just beep 3 times when I press anything on the any of the buttons. So we're going to go through that and check out the sensors, check everything out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, hit like, subscribe, it helps out. Thanks to all the new subscribers. And you know, I notice a lot of the people who view the videos aren't subscribers, so it helps support the channel. It helps me do more work, helps me do more of these things. I enjoy it. So you have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.